This first part's going to be a little bit of a mouthful. The Gigabyte G24F offers 300 nit HDR-ready 1080p SS-IPS 165Hz panel monitor that boasts a color-accurate achievement of 120% of the sRGB spectrum. The monitor is also advantageous of Freesync Premium, and it is TUV certified, which just means it's better for your eyes. The offerings don't stop there. I will break down most of this with some variation of explanation, but the most important thing in this situation is how all of it is achieved while holding a firm market spot for the everyman. Gigabyte has seen to this monitor being pretty feature-rich, functional, and affordable. The more I looked into the offerings it has, the more I became convinced that it could easily be a no-brainer for just about anybody. SS-IPS is a newer variation of IPS panel technology that effectively reduces latency from gray to gray to just over 2 milliseconds, from the typical 5 to 6 milliseconds of the formative ones. It also achieves this at 165 Hz refresh rate. What does this mean to you? Well, usually TN panels are the kind of sought-after panels for the refresh rates of 1 milliseconds, 144 Hz, but often the trade-off is just poor color reproduction and bad viewing angles. SS-IPS closes the gap to 2 milliseconds, a higher base standard of refresh compared to the more common 144 Hz TN panels, and far superior color reproduction with much better viewing angles. 300 nits is a pretty standard brightness. While brighter than the common 240 to 280 nits brightness that we often see on monitors, the 300 nits offers a slightly brighter experience, but negligible difference, really. The brightness is enough to recreate a solid lower quality HDR effect, but HDR is always going to be better experienced on much brighter panels that can recreate the light and not just the illusion of brightness. The monitor does feature the Freesync Premium, which is advantageous of higher refresh rates of the monitor's capabilities. This helps by eliminating tearing, but most importantly, it offers LFC or low frame rate compensation, which is just like what it sounds like. LFC compensates for frame rate drops by reproducing frames to keep the refresh up, smooth, and in theory indistinguishable when loss occurs. The Osd Sidekick or on-screen display Sidekick offers a lot also. This is definitely something worth mentioning. While most of the time you just see little functions you can go in there and change colors, of which you can in this monitor as well, you have the added benefit of doing things like adding a counter or a timer or a crosshair that's permanently on your monitor and not just in the game that you're playing. Adding all these extra benefits with a pretty easy to use on-screen display just made this extra, I guess. I don't know a better way to put that. It's just more than you thought you were probably going to get, and it's very easily a nice added bonus to an already great monitor. On the bottom of the monitor is one DisplayPort 1.2, two HDMI's 2.0, a 3.5mm auxiliary jack, a USB Type-B for the USB hub. Those are both 3.0 USB Type-A's there that need to be hubbed to the PC to be active, and the DC input for the power cable. It does include 3 total types of power cables, and 2 of them are Euro types, and I only need the US one, but it does come with the other types of DC input cables as well if you're buying abroad. And just one last note to make too, if you haven't played on something that goes over 60 Hz, you can feel the difference when you're playing it. I know a lot of people like to make the argument of the human eye can't detect it. Well, the human eye might not be able to detect the actual frames per millisecond that they're flashing by your face, but you can definitely detect the buttery smoothness that comes your way. Initially, I wasn't going to look at this monitor at all, but I figured I'd share it. I got it to replace a test bench monitor I was using that had just outlived its welcome. And the more I started looking into it as I was using it, the more I felt like this is something worth sharing. So my ending thoughts on it are just to say, if somebody were to come to me and say, hey, I'm looking for a monitor, I want a decent gaming monitor, and I don't want to spend a ton of money, I would recommend this very monitor right here. It has been pretty awesome to have and to use and be able to test some of that stuff with, and it's definitely something that I would recommend. They make a 27-inch version of it also, and if I were to ever replace my LG monitors over there, because I might want to eventually, I've had those for a minute, then it would probably be with the 27-inch variant of this Gigabyte monitor. Anyways, you guys have a great day, night, whatever it is, and I'll see you in the next video that I do.